In my previous life, Shenyu and I were born at the same time. She pretended to be obedient everywhere, speaking sweetly and skillfully, making our mother favor her time and time again, so much so that later, when she committed manslaughter, my mother pushed me out to take the blame in order to protect her. I died in prison, filled with resentment. Shenyu was holding my graduate school admission letter and heading to the university to register in this second chance at life. During our first fight over a doll when we were 5 years old, I fell to the ground just before our parents entered the room, then pretended to be strong and said, "It's not Yaya's fault, she just really wanted my doll, give me the little bunny." When 5-year-old Shenyu screamed and struggled with me over a rabbit plush toy, I was silently counting the hurried footsteps outside the door. The moment the door lock turned, I let go of the rabbit's ears without hesitation, falling to the ground. Mom, just like in the previous life, quickly walked toward Shenyu, grabbing her shoulders to check her over. Dad had just helped me up from where I had fallen on the ground. Mom then scolded me unhappily, saying, "Shen Xian, what are you fighting with your sister about again?" I lowered my gaze, exactly the same words as in the previous life, even though we were born just minutes apart. Just because Shenyu knows how to cry, make a fuss, and act spoiled, she always favors her unconditionally. Calm down, Dad said. With a furrowed brow, we both saw that it was Ye who pushed Xin. Dad, just like in my previous life, always convinced others with reason. Upon hearing Dad's words, Shenyu immediately retorted loudly, "I didn't push her. She fell on her own." Xin, you tell me, what happened? Dad asked. I gathered my emotions, making sure my eyes were already brimming with tears, before lifting my head and pretending to be strong as I replied, "Dad, don't blame Yaya, she just really wanted my doll. Even though it was a gift from you." Now, anyone with eyes could see who was at fault. Dad said to Shenyu, apologized to Xin. Shenyu opened her mouth, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. Obviously, she didn't expect me to steal her scene. Immediately after, she finally seemed to snap back to reality and shouted, "I told you it wasn't me, I didn't push her, she fell on her own." I pretended to be scared and nestled in my dad's arms. Then, where no one could see, I slowly curled my lips into a smile. My sister Shenyu and I are twins. In our previous life, she always pretended to be obedient and sweet-tongued, making our mother favor her time and again, so much so that later, when she committed manslaughter, our mother pushed me forward to take the blame in order to protect her. I died in prison, filled with resentment. She was heading to school to register with my graduate admission letter in hand. Who would have thought that heaven had eyes, and I was actually able to live a second life. In this life, I naturally won't be that sensible, long-suffering older sister anymore. Only the child who cries gets the candy. I should have had a bright and brilliant life, not a tragic death in prison. Shenyu was still wailing. "I didn't push her, I just wanted this rabbit. Why did you buy it for her and not for me?" For twins, when it comes to material things, naturally, each should have their own. Upon hearing this, my mother's face darkened as she sternly questioned, "Shenku, what's going on? You only bought a doll for your eldest daughter, not for your younger one." Dad wavered a bit upon hearing her words, making sure my voice could reach their ears. I casually remarked, "But Yaya, when Dad bought them for us, you clearly chose the little bear." "That's right, this little rabbit was bought by Dad when he took us to the toy store last week. He had originally planned to buy 2 small rabbits. But Shenyu was insistent on getting a teddy bear, because she knew that if she just pretended to cry a little, Mom would ask the sensible me to give up my doll. That way, she could have 2 dolls. In the previous life, she did indeed take this doll away from me, but this time is different. I cautiously looked at my father. Upon catching my pitiful gaze, he sighed and said to my mother, "How long are you going to indulge her?" Mother was taken aback, though she knew it was a misunderstanding. She still retorted stubbornly, "It's just a doll, she's the older sister, what's the big deal about letting her younger sister play with it for a while?" Dad picked me up. "They're only a few minutes apart. How much older can she be?" Then, ignoring Shenyu who was still crying and throwing a tantrum, he carried me out of the house. "I'll take you to buy a new doll," he said. I gently rested my head on his shoulder. "It's so nice. I get to see my dad again." In my previous life, when my mom, grandma, and other relatives all favored Shenyu more, Dad was the only one who cared for and protected me. However, he couldn't protect me forever. On my 10th birthday, He got into a car accident while my mother was arguing with him about divorce. After that, I became increasingly invisible in my mother's eyes. She also grew more and more partial to the eloquent Shinyu, so much so that after Shinyu committed manslaughter, my mother, in order to protect her, was willing to push me out to take the blame. Don't blame Mom, she was just too anxious. On the way to buy toys, Dad comforted me as usual. The kindergarten teacher taught us to be polite and give way. I should have let Yaya have her way. I replied understandingly, that way, Mom won't get angry. In my previous life, when I was in college, there was a popular term called green tea. It refers to those who pretend to be innocent in front of others, using it to elevate themselves and belittle others. It was only then that I realized how Shinyu had been winning Mom's favor since childhood, making her side with her time and time again. People will always lean towards the weaker party. Mom's inherent bias cannot be changed, so I can only rely on Dad. Therefore, this time around, I not only want to change my own fate but also Dad's. By the time Dad and I got home, Shinyu had stopped crying and making a fuss. Even when she saw us, she obediently came up to apologize to me. Your sisters. Yeah, apologizing should be enough to let this go, my mother said nonchalantly. Shinyu also sweetly smiled and said, I'm sorry, sister, I shouldn't have taken your doll. She was smiling, though, but the fleeting malice in her eyes was still caught by me. Sure enough, when I returned to my room, the rabbit doll had already been cut into pieces, placed on my desk as if in a show of defiance. Who did it goes without saying. That's exactly how Shinyu was in her previous life. What she couldn't have, I wasn't allowed to have either. Shinyu followed me into the house. If you dare tell Mom and Dad, I'll say you tried to stab me with a knife in her hand. She held a small paper cutter, the blade pressed against her own palm. I could almost laugh out of sheer frustration. It turns out that some people are just born evil. Before, I just thought Mom spoiled her too much. It seems I was wrong after all. It's okay, little sister, I said, mimicking her smile. Daddy bought me a new doll. I took out the identical rabbit doll from the bag. If you still want to play with it, you can take it and play. Shenyu's expression stiffened. It seemed she hadn't expected me to mimic her flowery, insincere speech, and I slowly approached her, whispering softly into her ear, children shouldn't play with knives, it's very dangerous. After saying that, while she was still stunned, I gently grasped the paper cutter in her hand. As she snapped back to reality and struggled fiercely with me, my palm was cut by the paper cutter. As the terror slowly surfaced in her eyes, I blinked, tears streaming down as I opened my mouth. Daddy, Mommy, Yaya cut up my doll and even stabbed me with a paper cutter. Wah, from then on, Shinyu didn't dare to provoke me for a long time. After all, she was still just a child of a few years old. I can be more cunning and better at pretending than her. Every time she tries to cast her spells, I interrupt her in reverse. But after living together for a long time, details I never paid attention to in my previous life have started to surface one by one. In kindergarten, she would win over other children to isolate me. She would fabricate things I never did in front of the teacher. These evils, she seemed to learn without any guidance, or perhaps they were ingrained in her very nature. Sometimes, I even find myself pondering, in her previous life, was she truly guilty of manslaughter? Although Mom still favored her a bit more, under the influence of my tea art tactics, her attitude toward me softened slightly. At least she no longer showed obvious favoritism openly. This balanced relationship persisted until we started elementary school. When it was disrupted, the choice that would change our fate appeared once again. Dad's friend gave him a spot at the international elementary school, but there was only one. In my previous life, Mom almost immediately gave the spot to Shinyu without a second thought. I was sent to an ordinary public elementary school instead. This time, Mom still wanted to give it to Shinyu, but Dad decided to ask for our opinions. As soon as Shinyu heard about going to the fun international school, she immediately started acting cute and begging to go. She called out, "Good daddy," one moment and "Good mommy" the next. Shinshin, what about you?" Dad turned to ask me. I hesitated, putting on a look as if I wanted to go too, and after a long while, I reluctantly said, "I don't want Dad and Mom to work too hard." Dad was taken aback, staring at me in a daze for quite some time. Mom also fell into an unusual silence for a moment. The lively atmosphere instantly turned cold. Shinyu hadn't yet realized why her parents fell silent. after hearing my words. She kept clamoring, "I want to go, Dad, I want to go." "All right, let's eat first," Dad coughed once, ending the conversation. I had thought they might still make the same decision as in my previous life, until just before school was about to start in September. Dad placed 2 admission notices for international elementary schools in front of Shen Yu and me. Although he didn't say anything, I suddenly remembered overhearing an argument between him and Mom a few days ago. Mom doesn't have a job, and if both Shen Yu and I went to the international elementary school, the financial pressure on the family would be significant. So, just like in the previous life, Mom suggested sending Shen Yu to an international elementary school while I would attend a public one. Dad immediately objected. "Both are your children. Your favoritism is a bit too obvious." Mom, feeling exposed, was a bit embarrassed and muttered, "I was just thinking that if both kids went to an international elementary school, the financial pressure on the family would be too great. Then why not just send them both to a public elementary school? Wouldn't that ease the pressure?" "That won't do," Mom blurted out without a second thought. "Many of Yaya's kindergarten classmates are going to that international elementary school." After that, I didn't listen to their conversation anymore, even though I had long grown numb to Mom's favoritism in my past life. Hearing her say these things again still made me feel a little upset. What I didn't expect, however, was that Dad, who had always prioritized Mom's wishes, would actually oppose her and insisted on using all connections to secure another admission slot. Since in this life, both Shen Yu and I ended up at the same school, that means I can change the outcome for myself and my father. After Shen Yu and I started elementary school, she became much more restrained in front of me, but at school, she was still the same as in her previous life. Wherever she went, she was the leader among the children. We lived peacefully like this for 3 years. In 3rd grade, a turning point in our lives arrived. In my previous life, shortly after Shen Yu and I celebrated our 10th birthday, my mother filed for divorce. When my father, who was on a business trip elsewhere, rushed home in a hurry, unfortunately, he encountered a car accident on the way. Over the past 3 years, just like in my previous life, my father and mother have started to have more and more conflicts. My father's job requires socializing, so he often comes home very late. Mom would become suspicious, thinking that Dad might be seeing someone else. Moreover, she always showed unconditional favoritism towards Shen Yu. The two would argue every few days. Now, they have reached a point where they can't stand the sight of each other. After my birthday, I kept track of the time when my father had the car accident in my previous life. I found various excuses to keep him at home and prevent him from going on a business trip. I avoided the car accident, but I couldn't avoid their divorce. What I didn't expect was that in this life, it was my father who initiated the divorce first. After Mom had another hysterical outburst in front of Shen Yu and me, Dad very calmly proposed a divorce, so calm that all 3 of us were momentarily stunned. Mom stammered for a long time before finally spitting out a few words, "Divorce then." They quickly completed the divorce procedures. However, when it came to handling the custody of Shen Yu and me, Mom unexpectedly chose me. She turned a deaf ear to Shen Yu's tantrums. This was something I had never anticipated. She clearly favored Shen Yu more, yet she chose to let Shen Yu go with her father, and it seemed that her father accepted this decision as well. Before leaving, he patted my head and said something that left me puzzled. "This time, Dad will protect you well." Only later did I understand why my mother chose me. When my mother, filled with guilt, told me she wanted to transfer me to another school, that's when I realized the child she loved more was still Shen Yu. She just didn't want Shen Yu to suffer with her, and I, still deluding myself, thought she might be different this time around. So, just like in my previous life, I returned to the same public elementary school, even being handed over to my grandmother for care. And I could only see her a few times a year. Just like in my previous life, my grandmother either beat or scolded me, calling me a bloodsucker who wasted her money. It wasn't until I accidentally overheard my grandmother talking to her on the phone that I learned she had found a respectable job, met a new partner, and was even saving money to buy a house for Shen Yu in the future. That's why the money she sent to my grandmother became less and less. All her money was to be left to Shen Yu. If it weren't for my dad regularly sending me money, I wouldn't even have been able to graduate from high school. By the time I saw Shen Yu again, I was already a sophomore in college. As the vice president of the student council, I was leading a dormitory inspection for freshmen when I caught her encouraging her roommates to lock a girl in the bathroom. "Please open the door," I really need to give this application form to the counselor. The girl locked in the bathroom cried her heart out, while Shenyu was surrounded by a crowd like the moon among the stars, just a few thousand yuan, not even as much as one of our Yuejie's shoes. Look at how shabby she is. How did we end up in the same dorm as her? What bad luck. Is that your financial aid application form? Kneel down and apologize to our Yuejia. If she's happy, we'll open the door for you. Application for financial aid. I glanced at my phone. This is a form that freshmen can fill out upon enrollment, specifically provided by the school as a living allowance for students from financially disadvantaged families. However, the deadline is 3 p.m. this afternoon. If the form is not submitted on time, it cannot be applied for again throughout the entire freshman year. Room inspection. What are you doing? My friend Lin Shuang knocked on the table. Only then did the group realize that we had already entered the dormitory. Shenyu, who was surrounded in the center, looked over just as our eyes met. Almost everyone gasped softly upon seeing the two of us. What are you doing? I asked Shenyu the moment Shenyu saw me. A flicker of panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly masked it. She walked up with a smile, pretending to be pleasantly surprised as she said, "Sister, I didn't expect to see you here." The other girls followed suit, crowding around and chattering. You actually have a sister who's the vice president of the student council. You two look exactly alike." Shenyu, who had initially looked a bit awkward, instantly became smug upon hearing the flattering remarks from those around her. She even tried to step forward and hug me affectionately. I had heard from my dad about her failing the college entrance exam last year and having to retake it, but I never expected that the university she got into after retaking the exam would be the same one I attend. I sidestepped her embrace and asked again, this time with patience, "What are you doing?" Shenyu was taken aback, but the girl next to her quickly chimed in. "Zhou Ran dirted our Yuejie's shoes. We just wanted to teach her a lesson. I looked at Shenyu. She gave a sheepish smile. "It's just a joke between classmates." Lin Shuang took advantage of the others making way and quickly let the girl named Zhou Ran out of the restroom unexpectedly. The first thing Zhou Ran did upon coming out was kneel down and kowtow to Shenyu, begging her to return the application form. Zhou Ran kowtowed with loud, thudding sounds. Shenyu awkwardly glanced at me, about to explain something I had already seen. The application form torn to shreds in the trash can beside me. I helped Zhou Ran up, exchanged a few words with Lin Shuang, and then Lin Shuang hurriedly led her out of the dormitory. After completing the routine inspection of their dormitory with the others, I said to Shenyu, "Do you remember the rabbit we fought over when we were 5 years old?" Shenyu's smile froze at the corner of her mouth. "I don't understand what you mean. Sister, my point is, no one here is going to spoil you, and neither will I." With Lin Shuang's help, Zhou Ran managed to submit the application form just before the deadline. Along with other members of the student council, I truthfully reported the situation of bullying in their dormitory to Shenyu's counselor and their department head. A few days later, I saw their dormitory's public reprimand posted on the school's official website. However, on the very evening the reprimand was announced, my mother called me for the first time ever since I started university. The number of times we've been in touch can be counted on one hand. Was admitted to university through a recommendation, and I usually do part-time jobs and side gigs myself, so I never asked her for money after starting college, and naturally, we haven't been in touch. The last chat record was still from the summer vacation. She sent me a message, "Your sister got into your school, so please look out for her." Oh, I didn't want to answer her call, but she kept calling over and over. The moment the call connected, she demanded, "I hear your sister is being bullied at school." I sneered and hung up the phone directly. Immediately, her messages popped up one after another. "What on earth is going on? I heard from her that you and your classmate got her a formal reprimand, didn't I ask you to look after her a bit? Is this how you take care of her?" Before blocking her, I kindly replied, "She was publicly criticized because she bullied others at school." Not long after hanging up her call, my dad also called me. In this life, my father did not pass away in a car accident. During the years I lived at my grandmother's house, he would often secretly send me money and buy things for me, so I wasn't as repulsed by him. But when I thought he might also be here for Shenyu, my voice unconsciously carried a hint of coldness. However, what I didn't expect was that the first thing my dad said when he called was to apologize to me. "I'm sorry, Xin. It's my fault for not Keeping Shinyu in check, I was taken aback, and the sharp words I had intended to say got stuck in my throat. After a long pause, I finally spoke up. How did she end up like this? In the previous life, it was because of her mother's indulgence that she became arrogant and lawless. This life, with her gentle father teaching her, she still turned out this way. Her father's tone carried some helplessness, but he quickly explained the situation in just a few words. All these years, I've been busy with work, thinking of earning more money for the two of you. So I've neglected her upbringing. After your mother married that man, she always wanted to see Shinyu. Since I was busy with work too, your sister sometimes lived with them. I lowered my eyes, unable to describe what I was feeling. Mom remarried when I was in middle school. After her marriage, she settled in another city, and our contact became even less frequent. I thought she just wanted to cut ties with the past and start a new life. I didn't expect Shinyu to still be part of my new life. Only I was the one who was cut off. After talking to my dad on the phone, I felt a lump in my chest. After canceling the dinner with my roommate, I aimlessly strolled through the school park. However, just as I was wandering to a secluded spot, I saw Shinyu kissing a man. Although the man had his back to me, his plump figure unmistakably identified him as the student council president, Sun Ming. But it had been less than 2 months since the start of the semester. We weren't far apart, and after taking a photo of them with my phone, I quietly left. No matter what tricks Shinyu is planning, it's always better to be cautious. However, to my surprise, Sun Ming wasn't with Shinyu in their daily lives. The two of them even acted as if they didn't know each other. It wasn't until the recruitment event half a month later that Sun Ming, despite opposition, brought Shinyu, who had recently been publicly criticized, into the student council. I hope you'll take good care of me from now on, sister. After the recruitment ended, Shinyu extended her hand to me, her eyes brimming with unconcealed pride. I squeezed her hand back. Definitely. And so, Shinyu began to frequently visit the student council, while accompanying Sun Ming to various competitions, making herself known to many teachers. By the time I was a junior, the previous disciplinary notice against her had been revoked. She was even selected as the outstanding student of the year. During this period, she didn't actively provoke me, and we managed to coexist peacefully for a while. However, shortly after the start of the third year, there was a change in the student council presidency. Shinyu was elected by a landslide vote, skipping a grade to become the president. According to the school's rules, the student council president is usually appointed from among the third-year students. Sun Ming is in his senior year, and by right, I should be taking over his position as the president. If Shinyu performs well, she can take over my position as the vice president. I wasn't particularly surprised by this. Ever since I saw her with Sun Ming in the park during our sophomore year, I had a feeling this might happen. What I'm more concerned about is what will happen 2 years from now. In my previous life, Shinyu and I did not attend the same university. My mother did not remarry, and after I went to college, I rarely went home. Not long after I was recommended for graduate school, my mother called me home. I had returned full of joy, eager to share my happiness with her. To my surprise, I found a strange man lying on the floor, covered in blood, while Shinyu was holding a fruit knife stained with blood. In the last moment before I was knocked unconscious, I heard my mother say to me, "You've always been excellent in your studies, and everyone likes you. Your sister has no other way out. Let her take over your life from now on. After all, you're sisters. No one else can help her but you." When I woke up again, everything had changed. I was forced to drink sulfuric acid, and my mouth and throat were burned, rendering me unable to make any sound. My biological mother and my younger sister tearfully recounted the events to the police. "I am not Shin Xian, I am Shinyu. I have a boyfriend who is a troublemaker, and I wanted to break up with him because I met a wealthy and handsome man, but that thug kept relentlessly pursuing me, even chasing me to my home. After forcing me to drink sulfuric acid, I accidentally killed him in my struggle, and so, I became the murderer." Shinyu, I couldn't prove my innocence. The murder weapon had my fingerprints. There were marks on my neck from where the thug had choked me. I couldn't speak, and anything I wrote was deemed invalid. When I died with resentment in prison, Shinyu was holding my admission letter, stepping into her new life. "Don't be sad, Shin. We all know what kind of person Shinyu is. We'll go together to talk to the director about this." I suddenly snapped back to reality and realized it was Lin Shuang and a few other members of the student council surrounding me. I forced a bitter smile. They thought I was upset about the change in leadership and tried to comfort me. Thank you for your concern, everyone, I'm fine, and there's no need to go looking for the director. Honestly, I've been feeling that being the club president is quite exhausting. Now that I'm in my junior year, I'd like to focus more on my studies. I glanced at Shen Yu, who was laughing boldly not far away. Some unsettling details from my past life gradually surfaced in my mind. That thug had a total of 5 stab wounds, with the fatal one being to the heart, but when I returned home, there were only 3 obvious bleeding wounds on the thug's chest. However, when I woke up again, I was already under arrest. The thug also died due to ineffective treatment. When passing by the lobby where the news was being broadcast, the news reported that the thug had 5 stab wounds. That means when I got home, the thug might not have been dead yet. After I passed out, they stabbed the thug 2 more times. They used my hand to deliver those additional stabs, then they forced me to drink sulfuric acid. Thinking of this, I was struck with a cold sweat down my back. If it really was as I suspected, then from the very beginning, this was a setup orchestrated by Shen Yu. Shen Yu majored in biology in university, so obtaining sulfuric acid would not be difficult for her. It's even possible that luring the thug to her home and committing manslaughter by accident were all part of her plan. Xin, are you okay? Lin Shuang asked with concern when she noticed my expression change. I'm fine, I had just replied when I saw Shen Yu walking straight toward me. I hid my slightly trembling hands behind my back. Sister, you're not upset that I became the student council president, are you? Shen Yu pretended to be apologetic as she spoke. I didn't want to compete with you, but senior son said my abilities aren't bad and I should give it a try. You won't blame me, will you? How could that be? I smiled. We are sisters after all. Although I truly didn't care about the position of president, after all, it's all just working for the teacher either way. But what I didn't expect was that not long after Shen Yu became the president, she was reported by name for abusing her authority and improperly collecting various fees. Lin Shuang secretly told me that the whistleblower was Zhou Ran, who had always been low-key and unnoticed before. I became the president of the student council again. In my senior year, I handed over the student council to Zhou Ran, and Shen Yu, for various reasons, returned to the path of her previous life, skipping classes, failing exams, getting into fights, and ultimately being expelled from school. It seems that everything is unfolding along the predetermined path of my previous life. I had once planned to find that thug, but no matter how much I investigated Shen Yu, there was no trace of any connection to that thug. In fact, they didn't even know each other. During my last semester of my senior year, I received the news of being recommended for graduate studies again. This time, just like in my previous life, I informed my mother about the news right away. I also purchased a stun gun online. Although this time around there was no presence of that hooligan, Shen Yu would still find her next victim. As I had guessed upon my rebirth, her evil is innate. Not long after, I suddenly received a message from my mother. She said she and my stepfather had prepared a table of dishes for me to celebrate my successful postgraduate admission. However, when I saw the pink corner of a garment in the picture she sent, my entire body felt as if my blood had frozen, a chill shooting straight to the top of my head. In this life, she still chose to help Shen Yu. I trembled as I put the stun gun into my pocket. On my way to the place that was hell for me, I suddenly received a call from my dad. Xin, don't go anywhere today. Okay, can we have dinner together tonight? It was very noisy on Dad's end, like he was at an airport. Sure, I replied with a smile. We can have dinner together tonight, but right now I need to go to Mom's place. She and Uncle have prepared a whole table of food waiting for me. Dad was silent on the other end of the phone for a moment before he spoke in a hoarse voice. All right, I understand. I soon arrived at my mother's place. When my mother came to open the door, her expression was very tense. I carefully observed her and noticed many details that I hadn't paid attention to in my previous life. For instance, her hair was quite disheveled, and there was a hint of panic in her eyes. Another example was the few drops of blood on her slippers, and her hands trembled as she opened the door. But in my naive past life, I noticed nothing at all. Come in quickly, Xin. Why are you just standing there at the door? Mom forced a smile and reached out to pull me inside. I put my hands in my pockets and took a step back. In the right pocket was a handheld stun gun. In the left pocket was my phone, still connected to Lin Shuang's call. Mom, did you only invite me for dinner today? I asked. Mother was visibly flustered as she stammered, yes, yes, this is to celebrate your successful postgraduate recommendation. Then why didn't I see Uncle Lou? He's cooking in the kitchen. You go inside first. Mother's composure was beginning to falter. I looked at her with a half smile, but in the pictures you just sent me, the food was already prepared. It got a bit cold, so he's reheating it. I didn't say anything more. After staring at her for a moment, I asked, Mom, have you ever loved me? She turned her head away and didn't answer. Finally, I was the first to break the awkwardness. Let's go. Let's see what dishes are inside. She stepped aside as if relieved. I walked into the house, and there was no bloody scene in the living room like in my previous life, but sitting at the dining table was Shenyu, smiling and chatting happily. I turned back to look at my guilty-looking mother. You said it was just me, didn't you? Shenyu spoke first. Sister, don't blame Mom. I heard you got into graduate school and wanted to come specially to congratulate you. She picked up the wine bottle on the table and poured some into a glass. We've always had so many misunderstandings. And I've done a lot of wrong things. I want to apologize to you. I sat down across from Shenyu. Although the room was filled with the aroma of food, it still couldn't mask the faint, lingering scent of blood. The kitchen door was closed, and it was likely that Uncle Lou was already in grave danger. Shenyu pushed the wine over and raised her glass to me. Sister, let's make peace. I looked at the wine, red as blood, and whispered softly, we can't make peace. She was taken aback, seemingly not expecting me to refuse her, just as her gaze began to drift behind me. I turned around and came face to face with my mother, who was frantically hiding her hands behind her back. You were going to knock me out, weren't you? I continued, knock me out, then frame me for Shenyu's murder, have me take her place in prison, and let her take my spot in graduate school, right? My mother looked utterly terrified, as if she couldn't comprehend how I had uncovered their plan. When Shenyu rushed over furiously, trying to restrain me, I pulled out a handheld stun gun. As Shenyu collapsed limply in front of us, my mother's hand, hidden behind her back, also dropped. What she held in her hand was a trophy. That trophy was won by Shenyu and me in a competition when we were in kindergarten. I always thought it had long been thrown away. It wasn't until the sound of police sirens echoed downstairs that my mother murmured in disbelief, you knew all along. So, Mom, have you ever loved me? I asked again. Yes, I knew all along that this was a trap specifically set for me, but I still stepped into it without hesitation, because I just wanted to know, did my mother ever truly love me, even if it's just a little bit? The trophy slipped from her grasp, and she knelt on the floor. Upon hearing my words, she finally broke down, covering her face as she sobbed. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I stared at her, numb. The heart knot that had been tangled for 2 lifetimes was finally untied. It turns out my mother really didn't love me. When the door outside was violently kicked open, the first to enter wasn't the police, but my father. He rushed to me abruptly, checking me up and down to see if I was injured. Just like when I was 5 years old, Mom chose to go to Shenyu, while he chose to come to me who had fallen to the ground. Fortunately, Dad loves me. Shenyu was already awake when she was taken away. She cursed at me in anger. Why do you have a better life than me? Everyone likes you everywhere, and I'm always inferior to you. Why? Because of my own efforts, I said softly. Whether in my previous life or this one, it's all through my own efforts, studying hard, striving to survive, and working hard to save myself. When the police took my mother away, she said sorry to me again, but I didn't look at her again. This belated apology is something I no longer need. Uncle Lou in the kitchen survived because he was sent to the hospital in time. My father and I were also taken to the police station for questioning. I had already instructed Lin Shuang before leaving the house to find an opportunity to call the police on my behalf. But Dad suddenly ran out of the plane that was about to take off to report the incident, while seriously disrupting the order. The police also suspected his motives, but Dad firmly insisted that he had a psychic feeling, sensing my danger and rushing back to report it at all costs. He kept the police occupied until nightfall. They had no choice but to let us go. Mom had already confessed everything Shenyu had done, which had nothing to do with us, so, apart from telepathy, the police didn't know how to explain it either. Dad, how did you know I was in danger? I asked casually on the way back. Telepathy, Dad said. After all, I told you I would protect you. I glanced at the flawless, bright moon in the sky. then I looked at my father, whose temples were already streaked with white hair. Only then did I belatedly understand the meaning of what my father said when he left that year. When I was 10 years old, Father Shin's side story. When Jiang Yuan called to say she wanted a divorce, I was on a business trip out of town recently. We'd been arguing a lot, and I thought it might be my fault, but Yaya and Xin need money for school, and household expenses also require money. After discussing the cooperation with the client, I rushed to the airport without stopping, wanting to go home and talk to Jiang Yuan. However, just as I was anxiously calling her, an accident suddenly occurred ahead. Before I could even think, I was plunged into darkness. When I woke up again, I found that I had already returned home. However, the house was very quiet, and I didn't see Jiang Yuan, Yaya, or Xin. I waited at home for a long time before they finally returned, but all three of them had red eyes, and they were wearing black armbands. I wanted to step forward and ask who had bullied them. It wasn't until I realized they couldn't see me that I understood the black veil was worn for me. I died in a car accident, but my soul has been lingering at home. I watched the two children grow up. Little by little, although they would never see me again, I had still been there to watch them grow up, but later, I gradually noticed something was off. Jiang Yuan had always favored Yaya more, and after my passing, her bias became even more pronounced. I watched as Xin was bullied by Yaya, and how she was looked down upon by Jiang Yuan and other relatives. My heart grew increasingly uneasy. Xin and Yaya are both my daughters, and it hurts me to see either of them wronged. At first, I comforted myself by thinking that Yaya might just be a bit immature, which is why she bullied Xin. But later she grew increasingly malicious. It was then that I realized Yaya's wickedness was innate. When I tried to stop them from framing Xin, I was plunged back into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, the sound of an argument came from a room not far away. Jiang Yuan rushed out of the kitchen, shouting at me, "Go and check on the two kids, they're at it again." I trembled as I turned the doorknob. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xin fall to the ground by herself. When Jiang Yuan pushed me aside and walked towards Yaya, I walked towards Xian. This time, I will definitely protect her well. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The first thing I did after being reborn was to stop my mother from signing the divorce papers. My father, the CEO of the company, embezzled company funds to support his mistress. Upon learning this, my mother was so furious that she signed the divorce papers. The very next day, my father died in a plane crash. The millions in commercial insurance and company shares he bought during his lifetime all ended up benefiting that mistress. In my previous life, my mother was humiliated by the mistress and eventually died by suicide after suffering from severe depression. In this life, watching my mother's trembling hand as she was about to sign the papers, I snatched the pen and snapped it in two. "Mom, don't sign. Why should we give away such immense wealth to that mistress and her illegitimate child?" The air fell deathly silent. My dad, Lin Guodong, was the first to react. He slammed the table abruptly, his face full of flesh trembling. "Lin Chu, you worthless thing. What nonsense are you spouting? What mistress? What bastard child? Did your mother teach you that?" He raised his hand, ready to slap me. My mother was so frightened that her face turned deathly pale, instinctively trying to shield me. "Guodong, Chu doesn't know any better." I pulled my mother aside and looked up to meet Lin Guodong's bloodshot eyes. "Go ahead, hit me. If you dare lay a hand on me today, I'll go get a medical examination for injuries." Coercing a divorce during a domestic violence incident. Let's see how the court rules on that. Lin Guodong's hand froze in midair. His lawyer, Zhang Wei, adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and spoke with a sarcastic tone. "Miss Lin, Mr. Lin's company is now heavily in debt. If Mrs. Lin signs now, she can still get a house. If this really goes to court, I'm afraid even that old, dilapidated house will have to be used to pay off the debt. In my previous life, this is exactly how they tricked my mother. They said the company was just an empty shell, full of debt. My mother was soft-hearted and didn't want to be saddled with debt, so she signed in a hurry. Who would have known that Lin Guodong had already transferred the assets and purchased a huge insurance policy? That plane ticket abroad was his escape pod. It is also his death warrant." I sneered coldly, staring at Zhang Wei. "Debt? Since there's debt, then this divorce is even more impossible. We will share hardships with President Lin. Lin Guodong's face turned red with anger, his neck bulging. Who wants to share hardships with you? Sign the papers now, take the house and get out. Seeing you mother and daughter makes me sick. My mother's eyes reddened, tears welling up in them. Her hand trembled as she reached for the remaining half of the pen on the table. Choo-choo, let it go. Since he has no heart left, money is useless to us. I grabbed my mother's hand, with such force that it hurt her. Mom, snap out of it. This isn't about money, it's about life. That woman is already 5 months pregnant. Are you going to step aside for her? Let that despicable couple live in your house, spend your money, and beat your child. Lin Guodong's face suddenly changed. How did you know? The door suddenly swung open. A woman in a tight dress, with a large belly, walked in. It was Chen Yao. She was carrying a Hermes bag, her face full of disdain. Since you already know, I won't pretend anymore. Lin Guodong, haven't you dealt with this old hag yet? If we miss tomorrow's flight, the doctors over there won't wait. Upon seeing Chen Yao, Lin Guodong immediately put on a different face. Yao Yao, what brings you here? Be careful not to disturb the baby. Chen Yao pushed Lin Guodong away with disdain and walked up to my mother. She looked down at my mother from above and slammed her Hermes bag onto the table. Sign it, sister. Guodong doesn't love you anymore. What's the point of hogging the toilet if you're not going to use it? My mother trembled with rage. You shameless woman, Chen Yao sneered, reaching out to poke my mother's forehead. Shameless, you say? It's you who's incompetent. Can't even bear a son. Serves you right to be kicked out. Her nails were long, about to poke my mother's eyes. Furious, I grabbed the ashtray from the table. Bang! The ashtray smashed at Chen Yao's feet, glass shards flying everywhere. Chen Yao let out a sharp scream and shrank back. I stood in front of Chen Yao, glaring at her intently, trying to climb the ladder. Unless I die, no one is going to sign this today. Lin Guodong had completely lost his mind. He rushed over, grabbed my hair, and slammed my head against the wall. How dare you defy me? How dare you scare Yao Yao? I'll beat you to death today. My scalp throbbed with intense pain, yet I burst into laughter. Hit harder. As long as I'm alive, I'll report you for tax fraud tomorrow. Do you really think no one knows about your shady accounts? Lin Guodong paused in his movements. A flicker of fear flashed in his eyes. He was indeed not clean, even in his previous life. He had only managed to clear his name by faking his death. He let go of his hand and gave me a hard shove. All right, not signing. Huh, you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Lawyer Zhang, bring out the documents. Zhang Wei pulled out a stack of photos from his briefcase. He threw them on the table. They were all photoshopped, intimate photos, of my mom with various men. Lin Guodong sneered. I originally wanted to spare you some dignity. Since you don't know how to appreciate it, don't blame me. Infidelity during marriage means leaving with nothing. This marriage, you will divorce whether you want to or not. My mother looked at those photos and nearly fainted. Lin Guodong, you beast, I've been married to you for 20 years, never stepping out of the house. How could you slander me like this? Lin Guodong lit a cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. The evidence is solid. If you don't sign, I'll send these photos to your workplace and to Choo-Choo's school. Let's see how you'll face people in the future. Chen Yao was over there, covering her mouth and laughing. Oh my, I really didn't see that coming, even at her age. My sister sure knows how to have fun. My mother was so angry she clutched her chest, gasping for breath. I looked coldly at this despicable couple. In my previous life, they had used this same trick, but my mother was so disheartened at the time that she didn't even look closely and signed directly. This time, I picked up the photos and tore them to shreds right in front of them. The Photoshop skills are terrible. The lighting and shadows are all wrong. Go ahead and post it. It's a perfect opportunity for everyone to see just how low Mr. Lin will stoop to force a divorce. Lin Guodong didn't expect me to be so tough. He stubbed out the cigarette, his gaze dark and menacing. Lin Chu, don't you dare regret this. Guards, several bodyguards rushed in. Lin Guodong pointed at the door. Throw their things out. Today, I'm clearing out this house for Yao Yao to rest during her pregnancy. If you don't sign, then get out and sleep on the street. The bodyguards rushed into the bedroom and began rummaging through everything, clothes, jewelry, and books were thrown one by one into the hallway. My mother cried as she tried to snatch back the photo frame. It was a keepsake left to her by my grandmother. Chen Yao stepped on the photo frame. Crunch, the glass shattered. Chen Yao ground her foot a few times, stomping the photo into a complete mess. Oops, sorry, I didn't see it. This kind of trash is just taking up space anyway. My mom lunged at Chen Yao like a madwoman. Pay for my photo. Chen Yao took the opportunity to fall to the ground. Ouch, my stomach, Guodong. She pushed me. She wants to kill our son. Lin Guodong's eyes turned red with fury. He rushed over and kicked my mother in the stomach. Bitch, how dare you touch my son? My mother let out a sharp cry and curled up on the ground. The string in my mind snapped. I didn't care about dignity or appearances anymore. I grabbed the vase beside me and smashed it against the back of Lin Guodong's head. Fuck your ancestors. Bang. The vase didn't break, but Lin Guodong staggered from the impact. Blood trickled down the back of his head. The entire room fell silent. Lin Guodong touched the back of his head, looked at the blood on his hand, and froze. Then he let out a pig-slaughtering roar. Murder. Beat this little bastard to death. The bodyguards closed in. I shielded my mother, backing into a corner, clutching a shard of glass tightly in my hand. Come on, whoever dares to come closer, I'll stab their artery. Anyway, I'm 1 day away from my 18th birthday. Killing isn't a crime. This fierce determination stunned the bodyguards. Lin Guodong covered his head, furious and flustered. Trash, all of you are fucking trash. Call the police. Arrest her. Zhang Wei quickly stopped him. Mr. Lin, we can't call the police. The police are here. They'll examine the injuries and take statements. We won't make the flight tomorrow. The matters over there are more important. Hearing the word flight, Lin Guodong calmed down a bit. He glared at me fiercely. Good, very good. I won't argue with you today. Drive them out. Change the locks. The bodyguards swarmed in, dragging and shoving both me and my mother out the main gate. Bang. The gate slammed shut. Our belongings were scattered all over the ground like two beggars in the hallway. Neighbors were peeking and prying. My mother clutched her stomach, crying as if her heart were breaking. Choo-choo, we can't fight him. Sign it. At least we'll have a roof over our heads. I crouched down and wiped the tears from my mother's face. My gaze was colder than the biting wind outside. Mom, don't cry. Tonight we'll sleep right at the door. Not going anywhere. Tomorrow, this house, this money, even Lin Guodong's life, will all be ours. My mother looked at me in horror. Choo-choo, don't do anything foolish. I turned my gaze toward the tightly shut door. From inside came Chen Yao's triumphant laughter and Lin Guodong's curses. I took my phone out of my pocket. The screen displayed a flight itinerary. It was the travel document I had taken from the table during the earlier chaos. Flight MH3700, departure time. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., destination, country M, in the previous life. This plane encountered extreme turbulence 2 hours after takeoff and crashed into the Pacific Ocean. No survivors. Lin Guodong, your time is up. That night, my mother and I sat in the hallway all night long. The late autumn night was bitterly cold. My mother draped the only remaining coat over me, while her own lips turned purple from the cold. She kept trying to persuade me to give up, saying we couldn't win against Lin Guodong, who had both money and power, saying that Chen Yao had a complicated background. I didn't say a word, just held her hand tightly. Just get through today. Just stall him from signing. Everything will be reversed. Early the next morning, the gate opened. Lin Guodong walked out with a bandage wrapped around his head, looking utterly miserable. Chen Yao, holding his arm, had changed into an even more flamboyant red dress. Seeing us piled up like trash at the door, Chen Yao covered her nose. Ugh, it really stinks. Why haven't you left yet? Do you really think squatting here will get you a share of the money? Lin Guodong kicked aside the suitcase blocking his way. Lawyer Zhang, did you bring the agreement? Give them one last chance. Sign now. And you get that rundown house. If you don't sign, I'll have them dragged to the outskirts and dumped right now. Zhang Wei handed over the agreement and a pen. My mother shrank back, about to reach for the pen again. I stopped her once more. I stood up and brushed the dust off my clothes. Though disheveled, I stared at Lin Guodong as if looking at a dead man. Dad, leaving in such a hurry, catching a flight. Lin Guodong's expression changed. Are you spying on me? I smiled. I've made up my mind. Since you're leaving, and taking that woman with you, then I can't afford to lose too much. 50 million, give me 50 million, and I'll convince my mom to sign. Lin Guodong seemed to have heard the biggest joke of all time. 50 million, you're not even worth 50 million if I sold you. My company doesn't even have 5 million in the account right now. Chen Yao also screamed. You little bitch, are you crazy for money? Guodong, ignore her, just go. I glanced at the time, 10 in the morning. It would take 2 more hours to get to the airport. He's in a hurry, I shrugged. If there's no 50 million, then we'll just stay here. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. Isn't that flight of yours only once a day? If you miss it, will you have to wait until next week? Can your creditors wait until next week? This remark hit Lin Guodong right where it hurt. He really is dodging debts. Although he bought massive insurance and transferred assets, the debts on the surface are real. Once creditors find out he's trying to flee, he'll be detained at the airport. Lin Guodong gritted his teeth, his eyes fierce. Lin Chu, you're asking for death. He gave a meaningful glance to his bodyguard. Tie up this little bastard. Hold that old woman's hand and make her sign. I refuse to believe I can't handle you. Several burly men closed in. My mother screamed in terror. Don't touch my daughter. I'll sign. I'll sign. I shouted loudly. Mom, don't sign. If you sign, I'll jump from here. I rushed to the corridor window, leaning half my body out. This is the 18th floor. The wind howled fiercely. Everyone froze in shock. Lin Guodong cursed. Who the hell are you trying to scare? Jump, if you've got the guts. Jump, if you die, I'll be relieved. My mother rushed over like a madwoman and clung to my leg. Choo-choo, don't. I won't sign. I'd rather die than sign. The scene quickly spiraled out of control. The neighbors opened their doors one after another to watch the commotion. Someone started recording with their phone. Lin Guodong grew anxious. If things escalated and the police arrived, he would truly be unable to leave. He glanced at his watch. 10:30. If he didn't leave now, he'd be late. He took a deep breath, suppressing his anger. Fine, you're ruthless, but there's no 50 million. I can only give you 1 million in cash. This is the bottom line. Take the money, sign, and get lost. Zhang Wei immediately brought a suitcase from the car. Open it. Bright red banknotes. For us now, it's a huge sum of money, but I know, compared to the billions he took away, this isn't even a drop in the bucket. I jumped down from the windowsill, walking up to the box. 1 million. Is this for beggars? I kicked the box over. Banknotes fluttered through the air. Chen Yao screamed as she scrambled to pick up the money. Lin Guodong's patience had completely run out. He pulled a switchblade from his pocket. Whoosh! It sprang open. The tip of the blade pointed at me. You don't know what's good for you, even if I have to face a murder charge today. I'm going to cripple you. He was approaching step by step. The murderous intent in his eyes was not fake. He really wanted to kill me. My mother was so frightened that she collapsed on the ground. I laughed with unparalleled brilliance, because I knew he was out of time. Kill him, kill me, and you'll go to jail. Your billions, your mistress, your son, will all be buried with you. Do it. I stretched my neck forward. Stab here. Lin Guodong's hand was trembling. Sweat trickled down his forehead. Time passed by minute. It was already 11 o'clock. If we didn't leave soon, we would really be late. Chen Yao was stomping her feet anxiously beside them. Guodong, don't get tangled up with this lunatic. The plane is about to take off. Once we settle down abroad, we'll send someone back to deal with them. As long as we're not divorced, she won't get a penny. Lin Guodong weighed the pros and cons. Finally, he sheathed his knife. He spat viciously. Lin Chu, you just wait. Once I've established myself abroad, the first thing I'll do is hire someone to take care of you and your daughter. This divorce can wait until later. With that, he grabbed Chen Yao's hand and rushed into the elevator without looking back. Zhang Wei and the bodyguards hurriedly followed. The hallway instantly fell silent. Only scattered banknotes and mess remained on the floor. My mother collapsed on the ground, holding me and crying loudly. Choo-choo, how could you be so foolish? He really will kill someone. I patted my mother's back, watching the descending numbers on the elevator. A cruel smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Mom, don't be afraid. He won't be coming back. He won't be coming back in this lifetime. I picked up the money from the ground, stacking the bills one by one. Let's go get a good meal, then head home and watch the news. I took my mom to the nearest 5-star hotel and checked us into a room. We took a hot shower and changed into clean clothes. I ordered another table full of dishes that my mom usually couldn't bear to eat. My mom couldn't eat at all. She was still trembling, her eyes unfocused. Choo-choo, let's run away quickly. When your father gets abroad, he's definitely going to find someone to take revenge on us. Let's take this 1 million and go somewhere no one knows us. I leisurely peeled the shrimp. Mom, eat. You need to eat well to have the strength to take over the inheritance. My mother touched my forehead. Are you scared out of your wits? Child, what inheritance? I glanced at the wall clock, for in the afternoon, the news should be coming out soon. I turned on the TV and switched to the news channel, now broadcasting an urgent news update. Flight MH3700, which took off at 2 p.m. today, has lost contact while flying over the Pacific Ocean. Satellite monitoring indicates that the aircraft may have encountered extreme turbulence, leading to disintegration and crash. The plane was carrying 239 passengers. The chopsticks fell from my mother's hand. She stared blankly at the television screen. The passenger list was scrolling across it. The names Lin Guodong and Qinyao were prominently displayed. This is, my mother stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. I put down the shrimp and grabbed a tissue to wipe my hands. Dead, they're all dead, gone, both the people and the box. My mother suddenly covered her face and burst into loud sobs. Not out of sorrow, it was the kind of breakdown that comes from being suppressed for too long. Finally unleashed, it was also a sense of relief after surviving a disaster. I didn't cry, I just quietly watched the television. In the previous life, Lin Guodong was also on this flight, but he went alone, because of the divorce. My mother had no right to interfere in his affairs. Qinyao took the money and lived a carefree life abroad. In this life, I stubbornly held back time, forcing him to take Qinyao along, a family of 3, all together and complete. Just then, my phone rang. It's Zhang Wei calling, that dog-headed military strategist lawyer. He didn't board the plane. He's handling the follow-up matters domestically. As soon as the call connected, Zhang Wei's trembling voice came through from the other end. Miss Lin, President Lin, I said calmly, I saw it. My condolences, Attorney Zhang. Zhang Wei fell silent for a few seconds on the other end. Miss Lin, since Mr. Lin has passed away, regarding the matter of the inheritance, Mr. Lin left a will before his death. I asked, to whom? Zhang Wei's voice regained its previous arrogance. Mr. Lin said, in case something happened to him, all property shall belong to Ms. Qinyao and the fetus in her womb. If Ms. Qinyao also meets with an accident, then it shall belong to Ms. Qinyao's mother, Wang Guifan. In short, it has nothing to do with you and your daughter, not a single cent. I'm so angry I could laugh. Lin Guodong. Oh Lin Guodong, you truly are ruthless to the extreme. You'd rather give it to your mistress's mother than to your own biological daughter. My mother, who was beside me, heard this and her face turned deathly pale. How could this be? Then we might as well. I pressed my mother's hand and spoke coldly into the phone. Zhang Wei, have you forgotten? A will must be made under clear and voluntary circumstances. Also, as for marital property, what right does he have to dispose of it all? Zhang Wei laughed triumphantly on the other end. Miss Lin, I know the law better than you do. Mr. Lin has already completed a property notarization, with most of his assets held in overseas trusts. All you can get now is that 1 million. If you know what's good for you, don't make a fuss, otherwise, you'll have to cough up even this 1 million. I hung up the phone. My mother was at a loss. Choo-choo, what should we do? That's several million, all given to that old woman. I stood up and walked to the window, watching the bustling traffic below. Give it, she'd have to be alive to spend it. Mom, stop crying. Since they want to play, we'll play along to the end. Let's go to the Lin family's old house, to pay our last respects. My mother froze. To see her off, I turned around, my gaze sharp as a blade. Qinyao is dead, but her mother is still alive. That old woman is no easy mark either. I helped my mother up, cry louder. Right now, we are the grief-stricken widow and orphan daughter. We must rightfully reclaim this immense wealth. My mother and I, both dressed in black, rushed to the Lin family villa. Before we even entered, we could hear the deafening sound of wailing from inside. My daughter, my grandson, you died so tragically. It was Qinyao's mother, Wang Guifan. The villa's main door was wide open, and a mourning hall had already been set up inside. They moved really fast. The funeral portrait is already set up. Lin Guodong and Qinyao's photos are placed side by side, with a chubby baby Photoshopped in between, it looks ridiculous. Wang Guifan is sitting on the ground, slapping her thighs, surrounded by a group of relatives from who knows where. Zhang Wei stood to the side, directing people as they moved things. Be careful, that vase is worth hundreds of thousands. Watch that painting, don't bump it. They were clearing out the villa. My mother took one look at the situation and trembled with anger. This is my home. What are you doing? Upon hearing the voice, Wang Guifan sprang to her feet, pointing at my mother's nose and cursing, your house, Pa, Guodong has already made a will, this house, this money, they're all mine, you two jinxes, you brought death upon my daughter and son-in-law, and you still have the nerve to show up. The surrounding relatives joined in the commotion. That's right, shameless, get out of here, now, you are not welcome here. Some even picked up brooms, ready to drive us away. My mother was shoved and nearly fell. I quickly steadied her. Without a word, she rushed forward and slapped Wang Guifan, smack, clear and crisp. The entire room fell silent. Wang Guifan covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. You dare hit me? I shook my hand. What's wrong with hitting you? Trespassing and robbery. Beating you is going easy on you. I am Lin Guodong's legitimate daughter, and this is my mother, Lin Guodong's legitimate wife. The property deed for this house is in my mother's name. What do you think you are? Acting all high and mighty here, Wang Guifan threw a tantrum, rolling on the ground. Murder, this little bitch is trying to kill someone. Lawyer Zhang, call the police, arrest her. Zhang Wei walked over and adjusted his glasses. Miss Lin, physical violence is illegal. Regarding the property, although it's registered under your mother's name, it's considered marital property. Mr. Lin's will clearly states that his half is to be given to Ms. Wang, and what's more, Mr. Lin signed a debt transfer agreement before his death. This house is now mortgaged to Ms. Wang. I sneered, what a clever scheme, mortgaging the house to the mistress's mother, indirectly transferring assets. Mortgage, where's the contract? Was it notarized? Show it to me. Zhang Wei pulled a document out of his bag, black and white, with a fingerprint on it. I didn't even look at it. I just snatched it right out of his hand. Rip, torn to shreds. Zhang Wei's face changed dramatically. You're destroying evidence. I threw the shredded paper in his face. Evidence? I can produce as many of these fake contracts as I want. Lin Guodong is dead, so there's no one to testify. If I say it's fake, then it's fake. If you're not satisfied, go ahead and sue, but until the verdict is in, this house belongs to the Lins. Get out. I pointed at the door, exuding an overwhelming presence. Wang Guifan was so angry she was hopping mad. I'm not leaving. I refuse to leave. This is my home too. Someone, beat her up. The relatives swarmed forward. I was prepared. I pulled a can of pepper spray from my bag. PSSSH. He unleashed a torrent of spray directly at the people in front. Ah, my eyes, it burns. Screams of agony filled the air. I pulled my mother back to a safe distance, holding up my phone. I've already started a live stream. The title is, Mistress's Family Occupies Legal Wife's Property, Assaults Widow and Orphan. There are already 10,000 people in the live stream now. Keep fighting. Why don't you let the whole nation see the true faces of you bloodsuckers? Upon hearing the word live stream, Wang Guifan shrank back in fear. Though she was fierce, she also feared public opinion. Zhang Wei's face turned ashen as he covered it. Stop filming, Miss Lin, let's talk this out. I shoved the camera right into Zhang Wei's face. This is Lawyer Zhang, helping the mistress forge wills and transfer assets. Everyone, remember this face. The screen was filled with rapidly scrolling bullet comments. How shameless. This lawyer is no good either. The original spouse is so pitiful. Zhang Wei grew anxious. Retreat now. A wise man knows when to retreat. He pulled Wang Guifan and was about to leave. Wang Guifan was unwilling to give up, spitting a mouthful of saliva before leaving. You little bitch, just you wait. The will has a backup at the notary office. Tearing it up won't help. I'm definitely taking this to court. A group of people scurried away in disgrace. The villa was in complete disarray. My mother looked at the trash scattered all over the floor and started crying again. Choo-choo, what if they really have a will? Are we really going to be left with nothing? I turned off the live stream, my gaze profound. The will, that depends on whether the will is genuine. Mom, have you forgotten? Lin Guodong has a habit. When he gets drunk, his hands tremble. I noticed the signature on that copy just now. The strokes were smooth, not a single tremor. At that time, he was drinking with Chinya to celebrate. My mother froze. You mean, the will is forged? I smiled. Not only is it forged, but also, I have evidence that Zhang Wei and Qin Yao are having an affair. That so-called will is nothing but a scheme they cooked up to swindle Lin Guodong. Lin Guodong never knew, even until his death, that the money he wanted to leave for his true love, I actually gave it to our neighbor, Old Wang. My mom was so shocked her jaw nearly dropped. How is this possible? I took out my phone and pulled up a photo, Qin Yao and Zhang Wei's hotel check-in records. Mom, pack up. Tomorrow we'll go to the notary office. I want to ruin Zhang Wei's reputation. Wang Guifan must rot in prison. The next day, my mother and I went to the notary office. Sure enough, Zhang Wei was already there with Wang Guifan. Wang Guifan was dressed in black, wearing sunglasses, putting on a respectable front. Seeing us arrive, she snorted coldly, "You still dare to come? Perfect. Let's get the paperwork done right here today. Not a single cent of those millions will you get." The notary produced the will, according to the commission of Mr. Lin Guodong before his death. I interrupted directly. I request a handwriting analysis. Also, I want to report lawyer Zhang Wei for abusing his position to forge a will and defraud a huge amount of property. Zhang Wei's face stiffened, then he flew into a rage. "You're slandering me. This will was personally signed by Mr. Lin, and there's even a video recording." As he spoke, he played a video. In the video, Lin Guodong was indeed signing, but his eyes were dazed, clearly indicating he was drunk. Chen Yao was beside him, supporting his hand. "Guodong, sign it. Once you sign, I'll feel at ease." I smiled. Pause. I pointed to a corner of the screen. "Everyone, look here." In the mirror at the corner of the video, Zhang Wei's face is reflected. He is gesturing to Chen Yao, a gesture of okay. Moreover, his other hand was resting on Chen Yao's waist. It was very discreet, but the mirror gave it away. The entire room erupted in an uproar. Zhang Wei panicked. This is just a matter of perspective." I took out the photo of Chen Yao and Zhang Wei kissing at the hotel entrance. "Lawyer Zhang, this will, I'm afraid you coaxed that fool into signing it, didn't you? Or perhaps, it was you who changed the content." Zhang Wei broke out in a cold sweat. You're talking nonsense. I'll sue you for defamation." Wang Guifan was also dumbfounded. She looked at the photo, then at Zhang Wei. "Zhang Wei, what's going on? You and Yao Yao." I added fuel to the fire. "Oh, Aunt Wang, you still don't know. The child in your daughter's belly isn't Lin Guodong's at all. It's Zhang Wei's. They teamed up, trying to make Lin Guodong the fall guy. Now that Lin Guodong is dead, they want to take all the inheritance for themselves. As for you," I looked at Wang Guifan. "Do you think Zhang Wei will share the money with you if he gets it? He even slept with his brother's wife and cheated his employer out of money. Would he care about an old woman like you?" Wang Guifan's face instantly turned green. She lunged at Zhang Wei, grabbing his hair and tearing at it. "You bastard, you slept with my daughter, and you still want to swindle my money. I'll beat you to death." The scene instantly spiraled out of control. It was a dog-eat-dog fight, with both sides ending up covered in fur. Zhang Wei was left with a face full of blood, his glasses knocked off. "Crazy woman, let go. It was your daughter who seduced me." The notary quickly called security. I held my mother's hand and stood aside, watching the show. "Mom, look, this is what they call, the wicked are tormented by the wicked." My mom was left speechless. "Choo-choo, how do you know so much?" I leaned close to her ear. "Because even the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. They sent me a dream." Amid the chaos, I picked up the original copy of the will. Take a closer look. Sure enough, in the fine print of the attached clauses, there is a line of small text. If the heir Qinyao dies unexpectedly, her share will be transferred to Zhang Wei for management. What a way to take over. This is Zhang Wei's backup plan. He had already planned it out. Once the money was in hand, he would stage an accident to send Qinyao to her end. This whole family is a pack of wolves. The police have arrived. Zhang Wei and Wang Guifan, who were fighting each other, were both taken away. Because it involved massive fraud and document forgery, the will was temporarily sealed. My mother and I walked out of the notary office. The sun is shining brightly. First round, a complete victory. But I know, Lin Guodong's company still has a pile of mess to deal with. Those creditors, those shareholders are the real hungry wolves. Just got home, and a row of luxury cars was parked at the entrance. Several middle-aged men in suits were blocking the doorway. Leading them was the company's vice president, Li Chang. He was also Lin Guodong's arch-rival. Seeing us, Li Chang gave a forced, insincere smile. Mrs. Lin, Miss Lin, my condolences, but business is business. President Lin embezzled 300 million from the company before his death. Now that he's gone, this debt falls on your shoulders. Either repay the money, or transfer all of President Lin's shares to me. 1 yuan transfer. This is outright robbery. My mom was so scared she hid behind me. I met Li Chang's gaze. 300 million, Mr. Li. Is that really how the accounts should be calculated? My father embezzling public funds was his personal action. What does that have to do with us? Besides, the evidence of the company's tax evasion over the years, I'm not without it either. Li Chang's face darkened. Little girl, you sure talk big. You have evidence. Show it to me. He stepped closer, and the bodyguards behind him closed in. I won't sign the transfer document today. None of you will get through this door. I tightened my grip on the phone, frantically thinking of a plan. I know a secret about Li Chang. He has an illegitimate child studying abroad. The money used is from the company's laundered funds. Mr. Li, I heard your son is doing well at Harvard, driving a Ferrari, living in a luxury apartment. Is that money clean? Li Chang's pupils suddenly contracted. If you dare lay a hand on my son, I laughed. I wouldn't dare, but I dare tell your wife about this. I heard her family is quite influential. If they find out you're raising a secret child outside and transferring assets. Li Chang gritted his teeth and said, you're ruthless, but Lin Chu, don't get too cocky. The company's hole is too big for you to fill. When it goes bankrupt and liquidates, you'll end up with nothing too. I straightened my back. There's no need for you to worry about that, Mr. Li. Not only will I fill the hole, I will also take back everything Lin Guodong lost. Starting today, I am the acting chairman of the Lin Group. Li Chang, having been caught in my grasp, temporarily backed down. The next day, I took my mother to the company. The company was in a state of panic. The employees are all buzzing with rumors, saying the company is about to go bankrupt. I immediately called a high-level meeting in the conference room. Those old foxes were all looking at me with eyes full of amusement. What can an 18-year-old girl possibly do, Miss Lin? It's not that we're not giving you face. Now the bank is pressing for loan repayment, and suppliers have cut off supplies. There isn't even enough money in the account to pay salaries. How are you going to save the company? The CFO slammed the financial report onto the table. I picked it up and glanced at it. It was all red. Lin Guodong had indeed drained the company dry, but I had an ace up my sleeve. Lin Guodong's massive insurance policy had billions in compensation. Although the process is still ongoing, I can use this as collateral to get a bank loan. Uncles and elders, I know everyone is waiting to see a joke, but I have Lin Guodong's insurance policy in my hands. The compensation will be paid out soon, enough to cover all debts. The room erupted in an uproar. Insurance? Isn't that for the mistress? I sneered. The will is fake, and the beneficiary is invalid. I am the sole legal heir. I will inject all of this money into the company, but I have one condition. I looked around the room. I want to clean up the management. Anyone who participated in Lin Guodong's accounting fraud must resign on their own. Otherwise, I will hand over the evidence to the Economic Crime Investigation Unit. Now, half of the people's expressions changed. They didn't expect me to be so ruthless. A major purge right after taking office. Li Chang slammed the table and stood up. Lin Chu, don't you dare go too far. This is a company, not a place for you to play house. If you dare to act recklessly, we'll all resign together. Let's see how you, a commander without an army, can manage. I am not the least bit flustered. Fine, anyone who wants to leave can go now. The door is over there. But if you leave, your stock options will be voided, and the non-compete agreement will take effect. Also, I will be auditing the accounts. Whoever is found to have a dirty record will join Lin Guodong in prison. The air froze. No one dared to move. They were all betting that I wouldn't dare to risk everything. At that moment, the door to the conference room was pushed open. An unexpected person walked in. It was Wang Guifan. Wasn't she arrested? I saw a man following behind her. I recognized that man. It was Lin Guodong's younger brother, Lin Guoqiang. In other words, my second uncle, a good-for-nothing gambler. In the previous life, he had also come to take a share. Oh my! What a grand display of authority, my dear niece. Lin Guoqiang swaggered in, pulled out a chair, and sat down. Wang Guifan followed behind him, looking smug. Lin Chu, do you think you've won just by arresting Zhang Wei? Let me tell you, the older ginger is spicier. This is your second uncle. According to the family trust terms, if Lin Guodong has no son, the company's management rights belong to his direct male relatives, which means your second uncle. I frowned. Lin Guoqiang propped his feet up on the table. Niece, your uncle doesn't want to make things difficult for you either, but the ancestral rules cannot be broken. After all, a woman is meant to be married off. The company must still bear the Lin family name. In that case, we'll give you 10 million as a dowry. You and your mother, step down and make way for the capable. Seeing that reinforcements had arrived, Li Chang and his crew immediately switched sides. That's right, Second Master Lin is the rightful heir. We support Second Master Lin. What does a little girl know about management? The situation instantly reversed. My mother anxiously tugged at my sleeve. Choo-choo, this. I looked at Lin Guoqiang's shameless demeanor. Suddenly, I understood. Second uncle, are you even worthy of the Lin surname? Didn't Grandpa already banish you from the family while he was still alive? You're not even listed in the family register, so what right do you have to inherit? Lin Guoqiang's expression changed. Nonsense. I have the blood of the Lin family flowing in my veins. That family register was just some nonsense written by a senile old fool. Anyway, I'm sitting in this seat today, no matter what. With a wave of his hand, a group of tattooed thugs rushed in from outside, wielding clubs. Anyone who disagrees, beat them up. This was a blatant act of robbery. The conference room was in chaos, with executives hiding under tables in fear, while Li Chang stood by, gloating. Lin Chu, a wise man knows when to yield. Sign it now. I stood up, shielding my mother, looking at those thugs. Uncle, this is organized crime. We live in a society governed by law. Are you sure you want to resort to violence? Lin Guoqiang sneered. The rule of law. In this room, I am the law. Get them, break that girl's legs first, let her know who's in charge. The club came whistling through the air, and my mother screamed as she threw herself over me. Don't hit my daughter. Bang, a loud crash, not the sound of a stick hitting the body, it was the conference room door being forced open. A team of fully armed special police officers rushed in. Don't move, police, everyone, get down on the ground with your hands on your head. Lin Guoqiang was dumbfounded, the cigarette in his hand falling to the floor. What's going on? I pushed my mother off me, straightened my clothes, and looked at Lin Guoqiang with a smile. Uncle, I forgot to tell you, right before the meeting started, I had someone keep an eye on the situation here. If anything seemed off, they were to call the police immediately. The reason given was that someone was colluding with criminal organizations in an attempt to violently seize control of the company. Also, I took the liberty of sending the evidence of your gambling and money laundering in Macau over the past few years to the police. That should be enough to get you sentenced for 8 to 10 years. Lin Guoqiang's face turned ashen. You set me up. The police rushed forward, pinning Lin Guoqiang and the thugs to the ground. Wang Guifan saw the situation turning unfavorable and wanted to slip away. I grabbed her by the hair. Auntie, don't be in such a hurry to leave. You and Lin Guoqiang's partnership hasn't been settled yet. The surveillance cameras captured everything that just happened, instigating others to commit violence. You won't get away with it either. Wang Guifan was scared out of her wits. It's not my fault. He forced me to do it. The farce ended with Lin Guoqiang and Wang Guifan being taken away. The meeting room fell into complete silence. Li Chang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, his legs trembling. I walked up to him and patted his shoulder. Uncle Li, who did you say you were supporting just now? Li Chang fell to his knees with a thud. Mr. Lin, Chairman Lin, I was wrong. I failed to recognize your greatness. From now on, I will follow your lead without question. I looked at him coldly. It's too late. Pack your things and get out. And also, spit out the money you swallowed. 1 cent less, and I'll make sure your son doesn't graduate from Harvard. Li Chang collapsed on the floor. Now the Lin group is completely under the Lin family's control. Lin Chu's Lin. After dealing with the internal turmoil in the company, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The insurance compensation was quickly settled. With billions of funds injected, the company was brought back to life. I have also become the youngest female tycoon in the city. Zhang Wei As an accomplice, will likely spend the rest of his life working on sewing machines behind bars. Wang Guifan, due to her advanced age, received a suspended sentence but was sent back to her hometown, where she will never be able to hold her head high in the village for the rest of her life. Lin Guoqiang is still serving time in prison. All those who harmed us have faced retribution. That day, I took my mother to the seaside, facing the sea. I scattered a handful of petals. It was a tribute to Lin Guodong. Although he was a scumbag, he did give me life. Moreover, his death bought our lives. Dad, rest in peace. Be a good person in your next life. My mother gazed at the sea, her eyes finally regaining their calm. Choo-choo, is it really all over? I held her hand. It's over, Mom. From now on, no one can bully us anymore. We must live well. 3 years later, under my leadership, the Lin Group not only paid off its debts but also successfully went public. Its market value tripled. I became a legend in the business world. Everyone calls me the Iron Lady, but no, I'm just an ordinary girl who had to put on armor to protect my family. Leaving the company, the sun was just right. A black Maybach was parked by the roadside. The car window rolled down, revealing my mother's well-maintained face. She is now the chairperson of a charitable foundation, busy with public welfare work every day. The whole person is radiant, looking 10 years younger than before. Choo-choo, get in the car quickly. There's a charity banquet tonight, and we're going to be late. I got into the car with a smile. Coming, Chairman. The car started and drove towards a bright future. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.